Welcome back to Marketing Connected's In Conversation series. Today is a bit of a special episode as we'll be headed off-site to Astro Malaysia's office for an interview with Tai Kam Leong, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer of the Consumer Media Entertainment Group. So although it's going to be a bit of a different setting from this studio right here, sit tight and enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to Marketing Connected. I'm your host, Xin Ying, and you're tuned into In Conversation, a series where we, as the title suggests, are in conversation with the industry's brilliant minds and experts. Today, we have with us for this episode, Tai Kam Leong, the Chief Sales Marketing Officer at Astro, a Malaysian media and entertainment holding company. Prior to joining Astro in 2022, Tai led brand and marketing at Maxis for 5 years and was also the head of home at one time. He got Adland experience as well, having worked at Rap Singapore, DDB Group, Naga DDB, and Leo Burnett. Without further ado, welcome Tai. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, welcome. Thanks for coming by.
Well, technically, I'm joining you because we're here at the Astro office today. How's it been since we last spoke to you at A&M? You were at Maxis at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever caught up since. How's it been like for you?
It's been exciting. I think that's the one good way to kind of summarize. So it'll be 3 years in December. Not that we're counting, but I think generally it's a pretty fast-paced environment and one that's proven to be a very interesting one, let's put it that way. I mean, it's probably not a surprise to say that the media landscape is going through quite a bit of change at really kind of breakneck speed, which means it really challenges sort of businesses, models, culture, approach, processes, technology, you name it, right? It's going to be many aspects of the business as a whole that's going to be affected. So I think as such, it's been a series of really exciting and interesting tests of ideas, as well as sort of resilience of sort of implementation.
Also, what would you say are kind of the top 3 highlights of the past 3 years for you? Like key moments that you were like, oh, this was great.
Oh, it's great. Okay, good. Let's start. I think let's go with that. You're right. So what's good? I think in the last 3 years, we've kind of set what we internally call BHAG. I think setting out big, hairy, audacious goals for ourselves and really simple ones that quantify the vision ultimately that this company has, that Ewan had set, our CEO, together with the rest of the management team, has kind of set out what it means to kind of, as we mentioned earlier, thrive amidst all the change, and what basically Astro would look like and what good will look like had we achieved all these goals. If there were more, I would say getting to launch this Astro One product suite. I think if there was a third, and maybe this is less about achievements per se, I think like working together with the people here and attempting to take the best of what this steady old company has gone through and has sort of gained experience and case studies over time on, and sort of attempting to work with them and see whether there are any ways to sort of lift that culture up and find a way of working that will allow us to be significantly more competitive, faster, embrace technologies, and to be a lot more sort of market-centric to find a good fit in modern times.
Coming up to 30, I'm sure the work is cut out for you guys, I think, with all the changes we've been seeing in the industry and like the squeeze in ADEX and such.
Yep.
We'll definitely get to more about Astro later.
Sure.
But I do want to touch a bit on yourself because looking back on your journey, your career, you went from creative agency to brand side and then now media industry, which some say is kind of the entire trinity of advertising, right? What do you make of that journey?
No, it's been an exciting journey, and actually, I think recently also, getting older, you kind of start reflecting on, but you become more aware, and you kind of try to find whether there's a common thread to all these things. And I think, so first of all, obviously it's been a very fulfilling journey so far, but I'm neither too high nor too low about stuff that happens. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of good things. I'm also equally sort of hurt by stuff that's kind of failed. But yeah, at the same time, I'm kind of just looking forward to next. And then as I look back, I think there's a common thread to the majority of the things I've decided to get involved in. And it's this test of whether creativity and ideation has its place in problem solving at every level on just about any subject.
Interesting.
And I say that as a person who doesn't come from a blue chip university, and I come from like
Actually, what were you studying?
I mean I studied basically in Petaling Jaya. It's basically a shopfront institute. ICT is a great place. It's obviously it's a practitioner-driven sort of little institute that's kind of grown. It's got much bigger, obviously, over the years, which I think kind of informs why I have this constant test of creativity and ideation. It almost feels like subconsciously, not that I'm thinking about this all the time, but subconsciously, it almost comes from sort of the pseudo underdogged, the less privileged starting point. So if I didn't have that, and I still don't have it actually, but it seems like I don't say much about my achievements, but that shouldn't be a barrier of aspiration or achievement. You should still strive for big things and want to do stuff, but naturally it informs then the things you hold important and dear. And I think in this case for me, the way it's affected me is that I think with some degree of creativity, ingenuity, and ideation, you can crack just about anything, and you can solve problems or latch on to opportunities regardless of shop lots or otherwise. And I think maybe that's the reason why I've kind of gone from sort of ad agencies and Malaysia to sort of going into an ad agency in Singapore, but clearly with a desire to run a P&L. And I think it was interesting to keep testing that theory. Well, okay, fine, it's a P&L now. It's not a project paper or a proposal or a brand piece of work or not creative in the traditional advertising sense. Can we apply those same principles and try and make it work? And so there was some traction and there was some achievement. So when Maxis kind of called up, and there were obviously some old acquaintances that kind of made that match.
So it was Maxis that called you up?
For the record, yes.
Right. Okay.
There we talked about it a little bit, and then they kind of said the idea of like, well, we understand it, we respect this desire for P&L accountability, but you know what? Telco's a big business. There's a giant postpaid business. There's a giant prepaid business, none of which we're trusting you with it. And said, okay, fine. But we're this small little new emerging business called home broadband and fiber. Would you like to take that on?
Small back then, not small anymore now.
That's right. But yeah, so I'm very happy to be a part of that foundational, what I like to think is foundational work. So yeah, so I've a lot of pride and I look back at that time with a lot of respect. But as far as the Trinity goes, I think, interestingly, if you keep building out, if you visualize the Trinity as a larger piece of a puzzle and they're all interconnected, so when you stretch beyond advertising, you think about marketing as a whole, or you think about sales, or you think about products, then you think about finance and overall business health, right? They're all sort of connected. But I guess to string it all together is that I think there is a common thread. And the common thread, at least to in my perspective, is that I believe I'm still testing and I haven't found the ceiling of what problems and opportunities can't creative or ingenuity or ideas create meaningful value for. I think so far, everything that I've done, there is a lot of merit in bringing those perspectives into play. Arguably, I'd say it's the most important trait and values if you wanted to create incrementally significant difference.
So your role at Astro is both sales and marketing. So for me as an outsider, I'm kind of inclined to believe that sales probably takes up a bit more of your time. But maybe if you could tell us in your words how you split the time between the two.
So here's the bad news. So actually it's a little bit more, there's not enough words in that title, and titles are, designations are unnecessary.
If anything, you'd be a 5-page.
No, yeah, no, but I mean, okay, we're fine. That's maybe a half joke. But actually, in essence today, other than marketing and on the sales side, I also work very closely with the product teams.
Right.
So the entire P&L of the TV business especially is the main focus right now. But I think more importantly, the reason why I feel like it's a lot more spread out and I don't feel like I have to invest way too much time in one department or division or the other is that I've got really good people who are really committed to what they do, and they've all been very willing participants in this experiment for creativity and ingenuity and idea centricity. So they've all learned and been a part, and for now, touch wood, have been really keen to collaborate and kind of buy into this philosophy. So because of that, there's a fair amount of empowerment and there's good alignment. Could it be better? It could always be better. I say this completely cognizant that we're far from ideal. But I also have to acknowledge and appreciate that there's been a lot of improvement and we're getting that. But I do want to make one extra point about sales particularly. Like, if operations was about process excellence and sort of having enough reporting lines to keep everything running in shape.
Efficiency. Yeah.
It's an efficiency game and having resource. And product guys are having curiosity, insight, sort of balancing numbers on a day-to-day basis, but also continuously trying to plan ahead. Marketing obviously has a traditional ambit in both creativity and execution. Sales at a glance is simplistic. The metric is simple, sell lah. Don't sell, don't have lah. Tell God lah. Like, it's almost brutally simple that way, right?
Yeah.
But I think there is actually a lot of nuance and a lot of beauty in that function. And a lot of people underestimate sales. And there's a lot of creativity there too. I think managing relationships is important. Creativity or idea centricity in the way we run channel management, commission designs, programs that motivate people and give people confidence. But really, I think the one that is the one that does take time and is irreplaceable with technology are relationships. Because the reality is, contrary to popular belief, it's not always about money. Right? And even at this seemingly, if there was a division more about money, it should be sales, I guess. But yet I feel like the one thing I've learned the past 2 years is relationships are the one that is going to give you that edge. And genuine relationships. Like, if you're curious what people do and you want to see them around, you want them to be happy in what they're doing, then you find common goals and then you get there.
All right, so Astro also has such diverse offerings. I think, like you mentioned, you've got Astro One that you guys are working on. You've got streaming, you've got TV, you've got a lot of things, a host of things. But how does Astro leverage digital channels and analytics to drive sales performance? How do you measure marketing ROI, especially in cross-platform campaigns? Because you've got so many different platforms ongoing.
So, I mean, there are the traditional bits, right? There is the sort of... So it depends on whether we're talking about our marketing dollars or our clients' marketing dollars. Because a big part of our lives are from our Astro Media Solution sides. We saw the ad sales side of business. I think on our side, we're still continuously on this evolving journey of stringing together TV, streaming, radio, and audio.
Yes.
On-ground events, which is a big part of the stuff we don't talk about, but it's there. We have a significant amount of web-based portals and pages that still very much have a boatload of traffic and engagement. And then, of course, all our presence on social and our foray into influencers, a stable of talent by which we were closely associated with. And then we have a studios offering and so on. So I might be missing a few things as I kind of mouth these off. But to try and string all these together is an ongoing process. This might sound a little bit dangerous to say, everyone will say anyway. But there is a real danger of analysis paralysis. There's a real danger of trying to solve a problem which may not actually give you the meaningful advantage that you want. In the days of content management platforms and the ability to do iterations for this antiquated thing called display advertising, for example, there's a degree of confidence you have to have in your idea or strategic thinking in the first place. Then you think about the framework and the template as if it's a jigsaw puzzle that's interchangeable. And then you have to have the correct target audience data to be able to load in to make it meaningfully different and relevant. And then you spew out this, and then you got to hope that the platforms you invest in are able to deliver these ads at the right time, right place, fair amount. So that you can then compare which is working, which isn't. And then so you have operators doing this, from agencies to in-house guys, and they're staring at this stuff and trying to crack this problem. And then eventually one day you crack it out, and then over 3 months you deliver for one single product, you deliver like 7,000 different iterations of ads. And on paper, that sounds brilliant. And then when you stack up the efficacy of this effort versus sort of a maybe less complex version of this, and you say there's 16 iterations of assets, and then you somehow still create X amount of efficacy or result. And then you compare them, actually they're pretty much close. Now, okay, now I also understand that's anecdotal evidence, right? And I understand. I'm fully cognizant of my shortcomings. And I'm not knocking analytics as a whole. But I think there is a point where there's a point of diminishing return for analytics. Just like how there might be a point of diminishing return for trying to create a model that strings together all these different media platforms, there simply isn't that demand most of the time. Again, that may be a controversial take.
Then how are you guys dealing with that point imbalance of analysis paralysis?
I think there needs to be a clear recognition of where is the inflection point, where it starts to require too many meetings, too many runs of the model, and you're not getting reliable, stable results. You almost have a little bit of an up and down. And taking an average, I think, is not the way to do it, right? So you don't find stability. The deviations are too high. And then I think that's the point normally you say, okay, enough. We kind of know already. Maybe we know a little bit better, but donate lah, time out lah. So then, but instead, we will still put it to test. We will still run maybe 2 different optionalities or find different tangents, but at least we need to then be satisfied that we've done enough to feel like we have some measure of insight, some enough data to form a hypothesis, and then go. And I'm saying that not because I feel like we don't have. I think by and large, AMS has done a very good job of stringing together all these modalities in media that we are a part of. And even the media that we don't own, like for example, the Astro and Suka brands and our Astro Radio's 11 brands are actually very pervasive on social.
I can see that. Not even day, every other hour there's like some new content, some things coming out.
Yeah, it's quite
Reels, TikToks.
It's quite nuts. So let's take the flavor of the moment TikTok. Right? So that TikTok, like getting from like 40,000 followers to 1 million followers. Not that followers matter in the FYPH, but getting that amount in like a year was a big achievement for the marketing team, and getting that is good. But actually, we did that because we wanted to gauge interest. It wasn't so much because we think we can hack the algo with following. I think the world has kind of changed, right? Is you're going to prefer FYP, hence prefer super engaging, super sticky content. But because we're a content company, we are not at a lack of content. We constantly have IPs that we own and or IPs that we distribute. So we get a lot of traction there. So I think the danger is spending, again, back to the original question, like when do we know? Actually, I don't know also.
It's like a guessing game, half of it.
Yeah, and if we spend too much time trying to make a better guess, at some point, it just doesn't simply get that much better. It gets a little bit better, but you're spending a significant amount of time more. And more importantly, it's an opportunity cost to that time. You could spend that time testing in real life and then learning from real life data rather than retrospective data and theoretical data, and then reacting there. And I think being able to manage resource and having some agility at that tail end of the process when it goes live, it's probably more important than trying to analyze it to death, like a better word.
So in the past 3 years, seems like a lot has happened.
A lot.
A lot of learning points. How do you think the organization has evolved to hold a leadership position in the media and audience space? So Astro itself is a brand, right? Especially now, like younger audiences might be more inclined to consume content on TikTok, like you mentioned, and YouTube and all of these so many different social platforms. What kind of challenges do you face in customer acquisition and retention in today's fragmented media market?
It's obviously gotten a boatload more competitive. I think that's and the sort of real tipping point or edge, if you're a Malcolm Gladwell person, is that is the internet lah. So if the internet has reached
the internet,
right? If the internet has reached this point where it's widely available and it's accessible to most, and it corresponds with emerging application from OTT streaming to social videos to creators at home. This creates the almost a disastrous competitive environment for a company which built itself as a disruptor to sort of, you think about it, the recording devices of the day. So we're very proud to shift heavily into our Malaysian content strategy and our for Malaysians content strategy. And really that becomes a big part of our business. I think there's an acknowledgement that global brands in the OTT business, whether it's Netflix or Disney Plus or Amazon Prime or HBO Max and regional players like View and iQIYI and so on, like we're happy to be their partners. So we don't necessarily see them as competitors per se. And we want to be a part of working with them and working at what we're good at to serve a Malaysian public.
And you guys also have partnerships with some of these.
Absolutely. So we see them as friends and we work together with them. So, and I know in a purity sense, I guess it does seem like they are your competitors, but actually they complement the Malaysian household's appetite for content. I think we can all get a little bit too caught up in our own Gatorade. Like, we all drink too much of it and we put on blinkers and we stare at the problem for too long. We kind of forget, right? Who is serving? For us, we're very clear, at least in the journey in the past couple of years. We're very focused on serving Malaysian households. And by that, we literally mean whatever the archetype of Malaysian household is. Are they majority Malay Malaysians? Absolutely. Today, majority have they could be multi-generational, more than 4.5 persons in a house or whatever it is. And I think that's our bullseye.
How then is Astro adapting its advertising and sponsorship models to suit, like you say, these changing audience behaviors, appetites, and tastes?
I think, and this might lead on to what I telegraphing the next question you asked, but I think, so we're talking the boring stuff first. The boring stuff is we're embracing social, obviously, so digital is a big part of our play. So that's a no-brainer, and I think most marketers will kind of relate to the same. But I think we're also we realize there's a need to be on ground. And we mean that in
physical,
multiple sense of the way. Yes, in the physical sense of the way. So we think it's important to have visibility in out of home, to be at sort of buying touch points, to support our trade, as I mentioned earlier. Those relationships, they also need to manifest in storefront banners, t-shirts, God forbid leaflets, which we try not to do too much. But that visibility, it seems old school, but we think ground visibility is really important. So likewise, we're also a big believer in experiential stuff.
right?
We think it's one thing to we talked earlier a bit about the shift to IPs and being proud of our Malaysian made content and our IPs there. And we've built fans of sports, of dramas, of characters, of genres. And we want to deepen this fandom in an experiential fashion. And I think that some people have asked that question of whether does it seem counterintuitive if a lot of young people, as you mentioned earlier, are perpetually on social and stuff to their phones. As a matter of fact, I think it's because of the reason why we think experiential matters even more. We believe that there is enough signals to suggest that they're not 100% hooked 100% of the time. And interestingly, we think there's a little bit of a switchback and people wanting to, from coffee raves to local collective people selling caps and cars and sneakers that we talked about earlier, and everything else in between, right? I mean, there are a lot of concerts that have come our way despite the fact that we don't have the Singapore's commanding dollar. But people still come, and I think there's definitely a demand and appetite for that. Look, our brand doesn't suffer from a lack of awareness. You recognize it. But I think the consideration, the education about why we're different today and how we're different today, we think those couple of things matter a lot. Like digital always, social always. But on-ground visibility and experiential, I think, makes a big difference. Even currently just showing Marja Lawak, which is basically made for TV, right? Even Marja Lawak has gone on ground and gone throughout the country to the furthest regions of the country to be there and meet fans and put on a show for them and then meet them after that, sign some signatures, sign some autographs. And we think that's important. That's how you immerse fandom. And I mentioned the Sepak Takraw League, but it basically it held competitions in 7 different states, packed every one of those states' stadiums, and drove record-breaking viewerships in the history of STL. And that's what makes it impressive for me, and that's how you build that fandom. It's odd. I think the unplugging is specifically from... But you know what? Social can change, right? I mean...
Yeah, we don't really know.
I don't really know. Yeah, and I won't bet against them, right? I mean, they're massive giants of industry and they're doing incredibly well for themselves. And they remain our partners to a lot of sense. I think there's a balance here. And I like to think that so my bold bet is there is a segment, I didn't say all the, but there will be a segment that's going to put a lot of premium on like on-ground experiences and sort of destination-based viewing and selective immersion in a particular topic or IP. So there is going to be increasing fandom in a way that's very different than sort of the followers and infinite scroll.
We'll definitely have to keep an eye out. I think
it will be interesting.
It will be interesting to see how consumer behavior shifts, what the new generation would be looking for, and how Astro plays a part in all of that.
Absolutely. We hope to still be there for people who will try.
Thank you so much, Kam Leong, for sharing your thoughts with us. For the listeners out there, fear not, although this interview with Tai Kam Leong of Astro Malaysia is over, we've got loads of other episodes you can catch on our Marketing Connected channel and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Marketing Interactive's social media pages, on Telegram, Instagram, and LinkedIn to get alerts on new podcast episodes. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Marketing Connected, brought to you by Marketing Interactive.